atrocious murders, rapes, and so many other atrocities on
At least give them 10% because some seniors is there, some made
most and in most of these atrocities, cases of violence, victims are always those who have to make some type of a statement. Whether it is a boy who is with the ringtone, or whether it is Gokuraj who is having some kind of a relationship or kind of a affinity with another community girl. So almost each victim is with his or her own story. Those who are without a story, they are dying. Though they are dying very silently, their death is not being recognized, but they are also dying. When 20 crores of Indians are not having food every day, they are also starving. But that is another story. We are here to share our agony and anguish, particularly kind of vehement violence perpetrated against scheduled caste or Dalits in different parts of the country. Though I am happy to share some ideas with my seniors, Professor Alone and Professor Lakshman Verma, senior when I was here in CPS. He's in CPS and he's more in history, I remember. So it's a proud moment for me personally to speak to you on this issue, but really our head, and I can say for myself, my head hanging same when we have to speak on these issues. How long will keep on suffering? How long will keep on being butchered? Is there any end to this kind of perpetuation, or it will go unabated? There are reasons, there are theories, there are perspectives on why it is happening. Almost everybody has talked about, all social reformers and revolutionaries have talked about why this violence is happening against caste victims. And they have suggested ways and means also that how it can be stopped. But why it is not being stopped even in democracy? Brother Lakshman was concluding his talk saying social justice is kind of a preamble to this democracy. But I think there is no social justice. Sorry, there is no social injustice here in India. Because still we are not being governed by the Constitution of India. We are being governed by centuries old Manusmriti. And if you see Manusmriti, then there is no social injustice. It is perfectly justified to kill a Dalit if he is having an affair with a woman. It is justice at its best. If an untouchable is trying to read and write and he is being butchered, then it is legitimate to finish that boy or girl. So it is Manusmriti at its best, even after 60 or 70 years of democracy in this country. So it is, some of us calling it as injustice, but most of them, those who believe in Manusmriti and their kind of system, for them it is perfectly a justified activity. For them it's a, as Ambedkar said, it's a matter of religion. And he is perpetuating these kind of activity, he is not a mad person or a mad community or a mad group. They are perfectly religious beings and they are doing as per their religious duty. So when some of us are trying to have humane relations, non-caste relations, trying to assert our humanity, have some kind of a human bondage. These are few exceptions. And I think this is one of the misreadings of annihilation of caste. Though there are many who justify intercaste marriages, I have not come to that conclusion as yet. Because if Dr. Ambedkar is justifying intercaste marriages or these kind of relationships, then why these people are being butchered? Why they are being killed? Why society is not accepting this? Caste and so many others. Most of the marriages have their own problems. There may be few exceptions, but we are not about exceptions, we are about rules. Because this is misreading. Ambedkar, when said intercaste marriages, he said before intercaste marriages there has to be some kind of a process. That process is to be followed. If you don't follow the process, if you don't take the steps which are supposed to take you or lead you to the destination, then you are bound to fall. That is what is happening in these cases. Because he is very clear, Ambedkar is very clear that you have to destroy the sanctity of the Shastras. Until unless you destroy the sanctity of the Shastras, you cannot have two individuals coming together. There will be two caste people coming together without losing sanctity of the caste, and when there is a small provision, they fight and then everything collapses. So intercaste marriages can only be followed by destruction and demolition of the Shastras and their sanctity as per the prescription or as per the thesis provided by Dr. Ambedkar, annihilation of caste. Otherwise, few individuals will always have their share of exception, and they may sometimes invite criticism or opposition, and sometimes they can be appreciated. But this is not just about intercaste marriages. This is not about just one particular place. It is a grand design or a kind of a system where violence is being used as an instrument of dominance and use Gramsci terminology, instrument to maintain the hegemony. If it is for maintaining the hegemony of certain groups of the caste, then it is bound to have its own perpetuation and is happening. So violence today not only has become kind of a symptom, it's not a symptom, but it is also a disease. Because somebody who is perpetuating violence is being guided by the religion or by the ideology he is supposed to follow. But at the same time, when you are committing a crime or when you are committing a violence, it's also setting an example. So it's having its own impact. Therefore, it's almost like two-edged sword, where it's creating its own victims as well as its own perpetuation. Then, what is the way out of this? There have been different theories. These theories, whether right from Buddha to those who are fought against caste to I'll say Manavatma, they all have talked about not letting or not allowing the wrong to be perpetuated. Beauty cookie and need cookie. This is famous Buddhist dichotomy. Then you have Jyotiba Phule who says even if you have to stop casteist, forcibly you must do that. And you have even an annihilation of caste where Baba Sahib says that it's violence is not just that somebody is committing violence on you and then you are stopping it, but actually you have to retaliate. You have to stop that perpetuator. Until and unless you stop that perpetuator, violence will never stop. And that is probably one of the understanding that why violence has not stopped in this country from time immemorial, because those who are perpetuating crimes, they have never been confronted. They know that nothing will happen to them. If they are committing crimes, if they are committing heinous crimes, all kind of butchering and genocide is taking place, because they have that sense of impunity. And nothing will be done against them. And if you have that assurance, that security, then obviously you are prone to committing these atrocities at the very first moment or at the very first opportunity. Then if they do not have that just in 1920s itself, Dr. Ambedkar is very particular about this, and he says somewhere that why these atrocities are not being stopped. As Lakshman was saying, because when these atrocities are being committed and you are going to a police station, you are going to a judicial system or say the political system, you are not given due, or because you are going to those who are perpetuating that crime. They are their cousins, they are their brothers, and all belonging to the same caste people. That is one of the reasons why these crimes are being committed even today. If you have some kind of a balance, proportionate representation or some kind of a balance in terms of different people coming to the forces and different people coming to the judiciary or other public institutions, then there can be some kind of a check. Otherwise, this system will prevail. The system of atrocities and violence will keep on destroying the whole community, sometimes in the name of caste, sometimes in other identities. Then we have this issue, if sometimes it is in Tamilnadu, sometimes it is in Andhra Pradesh, other times it is in Karnataka, and then Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, you name one state, almost everywhere you have different sets of combinations, different communities, and then different victims. But the nature of these crimes and the violence is almost same everywhere. Why it is happening? I will not say that it is increasing these days. Of course, there is an increased reaction. People are reacting to certain developments happening in the last 20-30 years. Because there is much more assertion. There is a much more kind of a awareness, consolidation of caste victims. So they are in a position to assert whether it is educational institutions or a small village. Everywhere some kind of a spark is there. So when there is some kind of a consolidation of these caste victims, historically caste victims, then there is almost everywhere a backlash. Because they are in minority in most of the villages or most of the locations. And when they are in minority, they are not in a position to give it back. Mostly, these atrocities have come as an instrument of teaching lessons, showing them the place where they were supposed to be. They have defied or they have not accepted their inhuman existence, and now they are claiming their humanity. So this reaction is taking place. But we see this another very important feature of this violence, that most of the crimes or the violence is being perpetuated by dominant caste or dominant OBCs, erstwhile Sudras. Then what is this issue? If they were themselves victims at some point of time, and some as not more than 20-30 years before, then how they have become perpetuators or how they have become oppressors? What has gone wrong? If we do not understand that process, then probably there will be no end to this crime. We have seen some in some of the cases where even there are conflict within scheduled castes. Some of the groups may not be having that kind of a liking for other categories within scheduled caste or within the region. So where is the wrong? Probably wrong is when maybe Paul Ferrero can verify here, when he somewhere writes that if the oppressed is not ideologically, consciously transformed from a non-being to proper human being, then he is likely to imbibe ideology of their oppressors. So, against whom you are starting your fight, you start imbibing that particular ideology, and probably that is what is happening in India. And that tactics, you know, or that system, you know, it's a corruption and corruption tactic. Anybody who has some kind of a say opposition to system, who has mobilized or consolidated any community, you can say, any caste, because every caste is not equal in oppression and suffering. So at historical junctures, some communities have fought and some others have not fought. But historically, those communities which have fought against the Brahminical system, the caste system, or the great inequality, most of these communities have been co-opted by the Brahminical system. So there may be anti-Brahmin movement, but ultimately this anti-Brahmin movement became one of the most casteist system, because they were not fighting against the system, they were fighting against a particular community. So once they replaced that community, they started behaving in that particular fashion. That is that system of co-opting and giving them maybe sometimes economic benefits, sometimes maybe political benefits. अगर राज्याभिषेक भी करना तो पहले अंगूठे से कर सकते हैं, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, शिवाजी की बात हो रही है. So even if you have to have some kind of a political concessions, no problem. Economic concessions, no problem. And then there are different allurements by which these communities have become modern oppressors. Somebody was referring to rapists of Naidus. And I came across one piece where the Kamas, probably they are in Andhra Pradesh only, they are the one who were at one point of time were prosecuted by Pushcoming Soma. And they migrated from North India to Andhra Pradesh or Godavari Basin, and where they settled, but now probably the situation is entirely different. So once they were prosecuted, it is as per their own website. The website they are maintaining, it says that they were prosecuted. So, but now they are the new landlords of the new perpetuator of the crime. So this system will always have its beneficiaries, small beneficiaries, and that is you go one particular group, give them some kind of benefits, and they will be happy, and then corrupt them ideologically, corrupt them maybe economically and all ways, and that's why the leadership is finished. That has happened for almost all communities in India, except, and maybe few examples, except for the untouchables. Most of the untouchable communities, or those who are fighting against the Brahminical system, they have never been co-opted by the Brahminical system. And this current atrocities or current violence is being perpetuated against untouchables precisely for maybe one of the reasons, because these groups or the Dalit groups are in antagonistic contradiction with the Brahminical system. It's not that they have not been co-opted, it is because they cannot be co-opted. They are untouchables who cannot be touched by the Brahminical cultural imperialism. So they have maintained that humanity, they have maintained their system. So the old system where everybody was against, Lakshman was telling this thing that there is an anti-Dalit forum kind of a thing in Tamilnadu. So it's not new. They are everywhere in every village. From time immemorial, almost everybody is against this. Maybe one particular community is there against whom that almost whole village is united. So now they have the modern avatar, or they have the modern system, and I see some light in this. Because if now the whole system or everybody is getting against a particular group or a particular community, it means that community has developed a lot. It means that community has come a long way, and I am sure no amount of violence, no amount of murder and rapes can silence these communities now. Because most of these groups which are fighting against Brahminical system have their own inbuilt socio-cultural system which is almost antithesis to Brahminical system, or to Brahminism, or to Hinduism to a larger extent. And that is probably the reason where these forces want to demoralize and disturb these communities. Because they see the Brahminical system is watching them very carefully. One Ambedkar is capable of destroying their whole plethora of intellectuals and intellectual products. If there are many, they cannot sustain, they cannot contain it. So they are afraid. And in this frustration, in that counter-revolutionary mechanism, they are creating these institutions, or they are creating this, they are using violence as a counter-reactionary instrument. But our murders, our rapes, our homes being burned has been a historical phenomenon. Now, almost each drop of blood is being registered. Though there may not be a violent reaction and equal reaction, but it is being registered, if not in their records, it's being registered in our memories, in our sentiments, our sensibilities. And historically, no crime has gone unpunished. Those who are having their blood debts, they'll be made to repay their blood debts in terms of their own blood. The time will come. Because one person is being brutalized in Tamilnadu, we are able to discuss in Jawaharlal University. The kind of progress we have made is enormous. Now, there is a challenge of translating this opportunity into a decisive stretch. How to make it a success? Right? You do not need the whole country to get united. 120 crores, 125 crores people need not to come together. Few of them, maybe 5, 10, 20 are enough to make any change. And if that is the only thing which has happened in the history, कुछ ही लोग उसको चेंज कर सकते हैं, सारे लोग चेंज नहीं करते हैं. They come together later on. So maybe if not today, tomorrow a time will come when those doing this kind of nonsense, doing this kind of inhuman, so there is no humanity left. 2-3 days before in Bihar, the person is put into a trash, sugarcane, that is there on the website, on Facebook and other social media networks. So the fight is not with the human beings. They are wild beasts without any sense of humanity. The only thing that those who are victims, they have not lost their humanity. At least some of them must rise to the occasion and stop this nonsense. Otherwise, almost all in India are victims. Maybe 1 or 2% Brahmin males. They are not the victims, but most of others are victims. But their success is in making fight us among themselves. We are fighting with brothers, we are fighting with our own blood minerals. That is their success. It's not that there are not practical problems. There are practical problems. But those practical problems must be resolved first by theoretical formulations, and then all practical problems can be resolved by individual and collective sacrifices. By making some kind of exemplary moves, then only this society can be get rid of the caste system and the caste oppression. There have been examples, there have been exemplary figures who have contributed a lot, and I'm sure there will be many more. Now, time has come when not the caste alone, but the human agency of caste must also be adequately challenged and threatened, that their own existence, their own posterity is in danger if they do not become, or if they don't try to become human beings. Thank you.